Aloha and welcome to the University of Hawaii West Oahu's Research and Writing Workshop Series. This four-part series is a partnership between the library and the No'eau Center. My name is Robin and I'm the director of the No'eau Center, which is the learning center at UH West Oahu. Earlier in the series, you met Karina, one of the librarians at UH West Oahu. We're excited to work with you as you complete these workshops. Together, we're here to empower you so that you feel confident with research and writing. The videos in these series are accompanied by quizzes. If you're completing any of the episodes for credit for a course, please complete the quiz questions after the video or as we direct you to certain questions throughout the video. Welcome to episode 4. We're in the last step of the writing process, polishing your writing and ensuring that your citations are formatted correctly. This episode is targeted toward writers who have at least several pages of their drafts written. In this episode, you'll learn when, why, and how to cite, identify methods to revise your writing, and discover resources that can help with finishing touches before you submit your final draft. Let's start with citations. Citations tell readers that certain arguments, quotes, or ideas originated from another author's work. Together, your in-text citations and your reference list show readers how you built your argument. Citing information is important because it shows that the phenomena or issues that you're writing about are also being discussed by others. Through citing sources, you can show readers that it's not only you who's saying an issue is important, it's these other guys as well. Citing outside sources also shows readers which parts of the draft are your thoughts and which parts are the thoughts of others. This is crucial for avoiding plagiarism. Citing also helps to reinforce what scholars within that field are discussing, or even not discussing. It puts you in conversation with others. Lastly, citing can help to ensure the accuracy of information. It kind of provides a paper trail. So when should you cite? Most people know that when using direct quotes, you need to provide an in-text citation that tells readers where the quote originally came from. However, when paraphrasing other authors' ideas, that should also be cited as well. Just remember, when in doubt, cite it out. If it's not common knowledge to a general audience or in your field of study, you should probably cite it. What is common knowledge? So common knowledge is essentially information that is widely accepted as truth, and the average reader would not need to look up the information to verify its accuracy. Okay, on to the format of citations. As mentioned previously, in-text citations should be provided when you're paraphrasing or presenting information from sources in your own words, and when you're using direct quotes. In addition, any sources that appear in in-text citations in your draft should also be in your reference list or works cited page. APA, ASA, Chicago Manual of Style or CMS, and MLA are the various citation styles that are used in classes with writing assignments at UH West Oahu. If you're learning to tackle a new citation style or looking for a refresher, the library has created guides that provide information on how to cite in those various styles. These guides provide information about all parts of the citation style, from formatting to how to create an in-text citation depending on how many authors there are. Let's walk through a commonly used citation style in college writing, APA. In APA style, books are usually formatted with the last name of the author, a comma, then the first initial of their first name. The next piece of information needed is the year the book was published, which is placed in parentheses. The title of the book follows in italics. Notice that only the first letter of the first word is capitalized. All following words are lowercase unless it comes after a punctuation or colon or is a proper noun. After that comes the name of the publisher and the DOI if available. For other source types, such as journal articles or websites, head to the library guide link at guides.westoahu.hawaii.edu/citing. If you're completing this workshop for credit, pause the video here to answer the quiz questions on citation. We're going to shift gears now to talk about revisions and editing. The most important thing is to allow yourself enough time for revisions and editing. We often develop the bad habit of drafting at the last minute, but allowing time for revision and editing can actually help with writer's block and procrastination. For me, knowing that I'll spend time on revision and editing later helps me to not stress out so much about my draft. When I draft, I don't need to make it perfect because I know I'll fix it later. As far as the differences between revisions and editing, a lot of times people talk about the two as if they're the same thing, and there's definitely some overlap. But thinking about the differences between revision and editing can help you to be more thorough in this process and allow enough time for this process. Thinking about the differences between revisions and editing also helps us to consider different parts of the process and how much time to allow ourselves. So revisions tend to be more large scale, while editing is more small scale. Revisions are often done recursively throughout the writing process, meaning that it's common and helpful to go back and forth between drafting and revising. Editing, on the other hand, is usually done more toward the end of the writing process. In order to understand revision, it's helpful to break the word into its parts. Revision literally means re-seeing, seeing again, or looking again at your draft, looking at it in a different way. I hope you can see how this can lead to bigger changes and more dramatic overhauls of drafts. Editing, on the other hand, includes things like proofreading, those final read-throughs before you submit a draft where you're looking for careless errors and small details like commas and spelling. This graphic and these acronyms are intended to help you remember the major differences between revising and editing. When you think of revising, think of arms, and when you think of editing, think of cups. You carry small things in cups and larger things in arms. So when we're talking about revising and arms, we're talking about adding, removing, moving, and substituting big things like paragraphs, sentences, arguments, and sources. Maybe you're reading through your draft and you realize that there's a big piece of the argument that you forgot to include. Maybe you decide you want to add in a source to support a certain part of your argument, or you meant to add a paragraph about the history but forgot. At the same time, you might be removing paragraphs, sections, or sources that you realize don't belong. Maybe you decide the entire history doesn't need to be included, or that something you wrote doesn't fit with your main argument. I know it can be scary or discouraging to take out things that you've written. For a lot of us, it's hard to write. We work so hard on our writing that we don't want to throw any of it away. But sometimes that will make our writing stronger. So what I like to do is, instead of deleting it completely, I'll just take it out and move it to a notes section at the end of my paper or a separate notes file. This way I can keep it just in case I want it back later. Revision also includes moving or reorganizing things. What might happen is that you realize that the way you organized your information the first time isn't the best way to help readers understand your point. You might find that a source belongs in another section or in multiple sections. And revision includes substituting as well, so pulling things out and putting things in. When we're talking about editing and cups, we're talking about smaller things like capitalization, usage, punctuation, and spelling. Whether you're revising or editing, I want to make a few general recommendations. Work with a hard copy. Somehow, when you work with a hard copy, you can catch things that you don't see on screen. Working with a hard copy also allows you to circle areas where you think there might be issues and then come back to these areas later to try to figure out what the problem might be. Another tip is to work with a friend. Sometimes we think reorganizing our draft in a certain way might help, but we're not sure. This is when a second opinion is always helpful. Friends, classmates, and tutors are great at giving second opinions. And if you're still not sure, get a third opinion. It's also helpful to read aloud. Sometimes, when we read our writing, we're reading what we want our paper to say rather than what is actually on the paper. Reading aloud forces you to slow down and helps you to read what's actually on the paper. Reading aloud can also help you to see your draft with fresh eyes or to identify run-on sentences. If you run out of breath when reading a sentence, maybe the sentence is too long. The last tip is to take breaks. The goal of revision is to see things with fresh eyes. So if you have the time to put your draft aside for a few days or a few hours, that can be very helpful. Revising, editing, and proofreading can also be difficult, tiring, or boring, and these tasks require you to pay close attention to what you're doing. Taking breaks can help you to come back to the work with more energy and focus. Next, we're going to try out a revision strategy called the believing and doubting game. First, we're going to read through our draft, imagining we're our strongest supporter. Maybe a family member, friend, or teacher who's always encouraging us, who always sees the best in us. You're going to read through as this person and put plus signs next to the sentences that you found most convincing. Next, you're going to read through your draft a second time. This time, you're going to read through as a skeptic. Again, maybe you have a friend, family member, or teacher who's always challenging you, always pushing you to explain more. Or they don't believe what you say and you have to convince them further. Read through as that person and put check marks next to the parts where you're most skeptical. The idea is that you can use these markings to revise. You can feel good about those parts where you were convincing and focus on strengthening those parts that need to be more persuasive. Do you need more evidence? Do you need to change the way it's worded? For more revision activities, you can download the handout linked below this video. Now that you've been given the rundown of revising, let's talk about editing. As mentioned earlier, editing is focusing on the details, so it's on a smaller scale. Editing is also done during the final stages of writing. When editing or applying cups, it can be helpful to focus on grammar and punctuation areas that you know you struggle with. Maybe your sentences are often 4 to 5 lines long, and you find it helpful to go back in and split them into shorter sentences. Or maybe you tend to put commas where they aren't needed. Because editing and proofreading are in the details, it's helpful to focus on one section at a time. Focusing on one paragraph at a time and reading each sentence slowly can help you see what's really on the page, if it sounds awkward, or if there might be a way to strengthen or clarify sentences. If you have a 10-page paper, don't expect to be able to edit it in one sitting. You are human, your eyes can and will get exhausted, and it's much more likely that you'll let more errors slide by. Allow yourself time to read through and ensure your paper is as perfect as can be. Another good strategy is to have a fresh pair of eyes look through your paper. This could be done with a tutor at the No'eau Center, your classmates, a family member, or friend. If you don't have a fresh pair of eyes readily available, try the Hemingway app. This free app looks at the grammatical structure of your sentences and highlights areas where you might be using a passive voice or if some sentences might be difficult to read. I know we've given you a bunch of information on how you can polish your paper, so now we want you to take a moment to reflect on your revising and editing process. Consider the following questions for any of your major writing assignments. What editing or proofreading strategies do you typically use? How much time do you usually spend editing or proofreading? What new editing or proofreading strategy do you want to try? On behalf of the rest of the Raw Skills team, I would just like to say mahalo for joining us on this 4-part journey. We hope that your research and writing process has improved and look forward to all of the amazing things you'll write. Happy writing!